I'm Ben Byes.
And I'm Carly Byes. We've been married for 12 years and together for 15 and have 2 boys.
This is our story of a controlling church and spiritual abuse and how it shook our relationship and clouded our view of God.
Our desire is that our honest view of pain and trauma in relationships can provide hope and the courage to hold on when life does not turn out as planned.
While also providing a dash of humor and loving banter.
We are still working to find wholeness, and we welcome you on our journey. Hello and happy Thursday, friends.
Welcome back.
Every time we start recording, we try to think of we don't even really try to think. We just start. Ben just like, okay, ready, go, and it's really just whatever comes to mind. So there you go.
It's happy Thursday every time.
No, I feel like we do it a little different every time. But anyways, happy Thursday, and thanks for tuning in and for listening to our latest episode, which was our top 10 to 15 reasons you know you're in a cult. And we had a couple other ones to add to it, right?
Yeah, suggestions from friends.
Yes, suggested from some friends.
That really were true. Yeah.
That were in the church with us. That, we just didn't touch on because we forgot, but definitely agree with. And one of them, go ahead.
Was if you leave the church, you're ostracized.
Yes.
You are no longer partaking in the promise anymore.
Yes.
You are no longer part of the remnant. You are, you're dead to me.
Yes.
You left, you're dead to me. You gave up. You didn't count the cost. Mm-hmm. You're not following through. You're not finishing the race. Although I feel like those are all implicit with the Christian life, but
when we really
but it has to be with that one church.
There were a lot of people that had left the church that were close with us, people from college that just couldn't hang, that we really couldn't socialize with because they would still be in the area, in the LA area, whatever, and some were married and had married somebody outside the church, which was fine. They attended another church, heaven forbid.
Part of the body of Christ. I can't believe them. How dare they?
How dare they? But we were not necessarily allowed to connect with them. And I remember I can't remember if we've talked about this before, but I had one of my old roommates was a part of the church, and then part of our old Bible study, a part of the church, and then eventually left. And married somebody who was a part of another church whose dad was a pastor, and it's yay, great for her, right? But she, didn't fully understand what we were going through and what our church was about. So it was almost against the rules to kind of hang out with her and spend time with her, even though she was still close by. And I remember not necessarily getting in trouble from you, but it was definitely frowned upon. Oh, you shouldn't be hanging out with her because she
probably gets a paycheck every week. So
no, it wasn't.
Why
about
would you
that.
hang out with her?
It was not about that. But it was more is she going to derail you from what the truth is, or is she going to be a bad influence on just, I don't know, what we were being told and what we were trying to do. So that was a real conflict for me because she was still my friend and, had experienced part of our church. So she was she could relate. But she was also kind of an outside person that I could talk to, but then again, not really, because it was just hard to be able to confide in anybody, especially anybody outside the church. But, anyways, yes, that was another huge sign. People that did leave the church, they were in some way shamed and told there was a reason why they left, and it was
they couldn't hang.
They couldn't hang. Yeah, that's really what it was. Yeah. And the other one was, which we kind of touched on a little bit, was just basically you weren't really able to have any sort of friends outside the church because they just didn't get it. And so those two kind of go hand in hand, but they
didn't have the hours of 3 a.m. to 8 a.m. open to hang out with you. So apparently
we were free.
they couldn't hang. They couldn't hang out with us during those times. So
Yeah, because it was very conflicting to have friends that were, or people that you spent time with outside of the church because, well, first of all, they couldn't really understand your lifestyle or the time that you were giving to the church or the business. So that was a hard one to explain. And if I did things on my own and people wondered where you were, that would just raise a lot of other questions. So it's just better just to not do that at all.
yeah,
And it was like very much advised to not do that.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Secretly advised.
Secret-
Passive aggressively
yeah,
advised.
very passively aggressively advised for sure.
So there's an added couple for you.
Yeah. So go ahead and do another inventory on your life. Make sure you're not in a cult.
Yeah.
And again, just to clarify that we are not experts, and these are not the only reasons why that you would be in a cult potentially. And you may experience some of these things and like not be anywhere near a cult.
Yeah,
So,
but hopefully you could have a conversation with leadership and say, I don't feel right about this.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
feel free
And
to
they'd
do
be
that.
open to do
and
that,
if they're
absolutely.
upset about that, then maybe you're in the wrong place.
yeah.
Maybe not a cult, but maybe you're just in the wrong place.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, anyways, to kind of get back on track with the story, last we left off was we touched
Touchdown in America.
touchdown in America. Thank God. Ben's terrible food poisoning from his schmear burger.
I kissed the ground and then found a bathroom.
Oh man, was that not the longest flight or what?
Yeah, it was bad.
But yeah, we touched down with not a cent to our name.
But some new Italian
But a new-
leather.
No, Parisian.
Oh, sorry.
Right? Is that how you say it?
I
Parisian.
don't know.
Yeah, I had a new Parisian leather jacket that was not real leather, but had to buy it because we couldn't dare come home with the money that was given to us to
Why
pay
would we
for
bring home?
food or rent or I don't know, whatever. So, yeah, we came home and it was basically like back to business as usual, right?
Yeah, back to business, full steam ahead. We got some added just inspiration from being in Africa and seeing God move. So now it's really time to make this business go. So this can be a year-long thing where we're, our private jet's taking us places. Our private jet is going to be coming from the business. So.
Well, and what Ben's talking about is that was like a prophetic word that was kind of spoken over our church and something that our pastor had said, like, at some point we are going to have a private jet. And so that was kind of like the tagline that we had, in a sense, like soon, when we have that private jet, next time, or, once we have that jet, like, we'll be able to, like, this won't be an issue anymore.
Yeah, and it's funny to talk about it now, but when you say it and you actually kind of believe, oh yeah, just that private jet will be there.
It was so believed by so many people in the congregation, like, and me too, like as much of a cynic as I can be, and like I believed it as well. Like, yeah, like I believe that this is what God's gonna do.
You can't
for
give
us.
everything you have and then not believe.
Right, absolutely.
Well, I guess you can, but
Well,
why?
we did,
Yeah,
but-
why not? Why not?
Well, yeah,
Why not
I
just
think
go all in?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
if you're gonna be
So-
like going all in, then like part of you just has to believe these
believe it,
things.
man.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's just too gut wrenching not to. But I think one thing I did want to touch on before we go into like going back to the story was when we got back from Africa. I talked a little bit about where I was in terms of how I was feeling about our relationship and my connection with Ben, and I really was hoping that once we got back from Africa, there was going to be like a real turnaround in our relationship. And this was, again, nothing that you and I ever talked about because we just couldn't. But in my heart, I just knew I wasn't happy, and I was experiencing these like desires for another life and like another relationship. And I was really just hoping, like, coming back from Africa, it was going to be like the obedience that I had put in the obedience and I had put in the work, and like I was faithful to like reap the gift of like actually loving my husband and feeling loved by him. Heaven forbid I like desire that, you know. But I was really just hoping and praying that that was going to be the change or the miracle that like we went through. It was going to be part of our story of like things were changing or like good or and again, like we didn't know it was wrong. Like we didn't know, we just knew that like we both weren't really satisfied or happy with how things were. But again, like not together. We didn't have that conversation together. So, but I just remember feeling like just praying and hoping that this was going to be like the breakthrough that our marriage was going to have in some sort of way. So, I guess, spoiler alert, it was not.
Just in case anyone was booking their trip to Africa, hoping it would save their marriage.
Don't do it.
Cancel the tickets.
Don't do it. It's too expensive. Their burgers suck. Yeah. So anyways, that felt like an important thing to touch on, but that was like very much my desire. Like, but it was back to reality and back to the long days and long hours and even more demanded of you after that.
Yeah. So we were full steam ahead. HW Design Incorporated. Mm-hmm. Officially incorporated by the state of California. So
Stupidest.
we need to get some new lawmakers that allow people like that to be incorporated. But yeah, so it ended up being another year and a half of this business, like getting even more intense as we went along, and as the businesses went along, the pastor went on more and more little sporadic vacations in order to really, get God's clarity on what was happening. And
that was what he said.
That's what he said he was doing. And for, I don't know, maybe that's, I don't know, whatever. But there was a time, and we have to backtrack a little bit before Africa, where we were going up to the place in Big Bear, and on the way to Big Bear's Pachanga, and that's a place you can gamble, in case anyone doesn't know. And it was me and 3 other armor bearers, and we went in, and this is a really embarrassing story, so please bear with me here, because this is like, talk about most embarrassing moments. This was one of them in my life. So we went in to go gamble, and he was like so generous, and he gave a couple of us like $40 or $50 and was like, go gamble on your own. And we went to gamble on our own, and I won like $300 or $400 on slot machines. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And we went back to find him, and he was playing slot machines, and just like anything else in life, he thought that he had the thing. Like, this is how you win slot machines. You have to find the one that is going at a certain time, and he
knew everything about everything.
So he was on a slot machine, and
thought he knew everything about
and he was on the slot machine, and he lost a lot of money, not like $20, $30. It was like hundreds and hundreds of dollars on the slot machine. But he's like, no, it's about to hit. And I remember thinking, that's a lot of money. And for me, if I lose like $20, I feel horrible about myself. So he was hundreds and hundreds of dollars down the drain. And I remember getting yelled at by one of the other guys, you're not praying hard enough over the machine. And it's where I drew the line in my mind. I did not touch the machine and pray for the slot machine. I just thought, there's no way. There's no way I can do. Not that I think gambling's the most horrible thing in the world, but I'm not going to pray over a slot machine that the pastor's going to win money.
Was there any point in the night or whatever that you felt like, this is a little bit weird that I'm with my head pastor, like, gambling?
It
like,
was,
I know you don't feel like gambling's
sure.
the worst thing in the world, but like, did that feel weird at any point? Because to me, I'm like, seriously, what the hell?
No, it wasn't. It was weird for me. Not that it was. I could go out with anyone and feel like I could go gambling and spend $100 or something and feel like, you know what, that's us having fun. But when I saw him putting hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars in a slot machine, I thought, this doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
And then when
Also
I
knowing
won
where that
when I
money's
won
coming
that
from.
money, when I won the money,
From the
the
game
other guy
show.
that I was on the slot machine, sorry,
Oh.
the 200-300, I think I won $400. The guy I was with was like, dude, you better lose all that money because you can't walk out of this place a winner if he walks out of the place a loser.
There's no way, yeah.
So I remember
Because he would have asked you if you won anything,
Yeah,
and you couldn't tell him no.
yeah, because he'd given us the $20 to gamble.
And if he knew you actually won more than him, he'd have like a total like
meltdown
toddler fit.
So I ended up spending all of that, just losing it all on slot machine, and then saving enough for our gas because I thought, you know what, I need enough to pay for our gas to get to Big Bear and back. And then in the midst of that, he looked at me and another person and said, "Does anyone have $1,000 they could lend me? I'll pay you back." And $1,000 is a lot of money. I mean, even at any point in anyone's life, if $1,000 isn't a lot of money, I don't know. DM me.
you.
Let's talk to you.
Good for you.
Because I don't know. I've always been. I care about taking care of money correctly, and $1,000 is a lot of money. And one of my friends said, "Yeah," and he went and took out $1,000 and gave it to him, and that was money that he had promised someone else to pay for a car. Couldn't end up paying for the car, and then our pastor spent all of that, and then he just knew he was on this, and this was on slot machines, people. It's not like we're on high stake poker or something that
like the craps
revolves
table.
around something with a little skill. Is completely luck. But he was completely positive. Then he looked at me, and this was when I'd won the money
From the game show.
before we had gotten our money back from our tax return, and I withdrew the last $1,000 we had in our account in cash from an ATM in a casino to give to him. So welcome to my living hell that I actually did that. So glad I told everyone. Welcome.
And I don't remember. I mean, I feel like I remember you telling me
No,
that.
I never told you that.
Well,
I would never
obviously
tell
would
you
have
that.
known we had $0 left.
But
in
I
our
would
bank
never tell you
account.
that. I'd probably be like, yeah, it was a big dinner or
Well,
something.
big dinner. But I feel like you told me that like you had to take some money out. Maybe you didn't tell me the amount, and I feel like there's a part of me that was like probably upset about it, but I don't remember having the conversation like at all, which is just so sad. Probably because you knew I would maybe freak out.
Oh, yeah. Wish you should have.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you should have freaked out.
Well, and like you defended every part of it too to me.
Yeah.
Like there was always like you had to defend, even though you didn't necessarily feel like it was the right thing or you didn't agree with how you were defending it, but you had to defend it to me because you couldn't let me in on like how you were really feeling about it all because we would just all crumble, you know. But yeah, $1,000. See ya.
So, but that was I give that one example that was a little bit farther back from our current story because he went on a few of those other trips and he stopped inviting me and another one of our buddies who he just knew we weren't cut out for that. I mean, we were probably more negative than positive in the situation, which we should have been. So that was going on, and then this business is going on, and the business is, we already talked about the hours. I mean, I'd get home at 2, 3 in the morning and leave again at 8, 9 in the morning, and but the thing that really saved us is our car broke down. Another person's car broke down.
What were we
we
driving
had
at
to
that
start.
point?
It was your Jeep, but the Jeep broke down. We didn't have enough money to pay for.
No, you were driving
Pay
the
for it to fix it.
Mercedes.
No, that was a different one. Yeah, maybe that. Yeah, we were driving that, which was another friend's car that lent to us. And then we started carpooling with 2 other people in the business to get there. And that ended up, for the next year and a half, we carpooled.
Yeah.
But not just another person in the business. Like this was like your best,
best friend,
friend,
yeah.
and who was also an armor bearer and
Yeah.
also like, yeah. So it wasn't just someone else in the business.
So I carpooled with him, and we somehow scrounged out enough money to continually get gas to go.
because you continue to not be paid through the business.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then as the business went, here's the fun part about the business is we did get some legitimate contracts. We were doing stuff for Verizon Wireless. We were doing stuff for a few really good places in Beverly Hills, and I won't mention their names because I don't want to embarrass them that they did business with us. But some like really prestigious things that we're doing stuff for celebrities, and yeah, they're probably not, but yeah, they're not. I'm sure they're not, but we were picking up some really like legit business, and mostly because we were making them underpay for the work we were doing for them, but.
Absolutely.
At the same time, it was just what you have to do when you start a business in some aspects. Where if we
but
were
not for like a year or two straight,
right? Well, yeah, for a year or two straight. If you're not sinking $5,000 for your office space, that doesn't matter.
Well, that's terrible business strategy.
So if we were in someone's house and doing graphic design like we could have done, we would have really been building a great business because we were getting some pretty good clients and getting some traction and. I mean, I remember very clearly going into Verizon Wireless and doing a sales presentation. Never done a sales presentation before. We had been up for 3 days straight. And I stopped by our house when we lived in Lawndale. I stopped by our house and picked up some like foam board to put some stuff on.
Oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed.
Me and another one of my buddies went in and we did the presentation and we got the job. So that's cool, I guess.
Except you guys were late on every single deadline, right?
Yeah.
Because like our pastor was like making revisions, but then like couldn't wake up from his slumber to like make the revisions.
Well, it's not that he couldn't wake up, is that other things he's like an ADD dog that saw a squirrel. It's a squirrel! He would just change what he wanted, the focus of what's important. So we'd have a very important client and he'd start doing stuff for a free website because it piqued his pleasure instead. So
piqued his pleasure. What an idiot.
So but we had some legit jobs. So from having those legit jobs, our head pastor, I would say hired. I don't even know if you say hired, but he forced us to hire 3 people from the church because this was like our business, but it was also going to be, hey, these people who don't have jobs, we'll give them a job at our business because we're so successful because we did something for Verizon and we did something for this salon in Beverly Hills and we did something for this spray tan place in Beverly Hills. So we did stuff for them. So we have a ton of money, so we can hire these people. So we hired 2 people from church who didn't know how to work email. So this is a company that completely revolves around graphics and websites, and 2 people who didn't know how to do email. In fact, I still have an email from one of them says, "Hello, Pastor Ben. This is me learning email." I mean, seriously, this is not a joke. This is not a joke. I still have the email.
And this is not like in the 90s, okay? This is 2009. Email's been around for a while. Hi, Pastor Ben, all lower caps, which I get is a trend now. However, back then, hi, Pastor Ben, I'm just learning email.
Send.
So
that was one of the people we hired. Another person we hired, and I don't know what the other person did.
Well, yeah, what did they do when they were there?
I don't know. And then it was like my bad for not like teaching them enough. And like making them learn enough that like you're not being a good employer. You're not being a good supervisor because you're not teaching them. And I'm like, dude, I'm working 20 hours a day. I don't have time to teach someone how to work email. Okay, I'm teaching myself how to build a website and how to stink and work SQL and all these other programming languages. And
oh my gosh! But like literally, I remember the person who we hired who sent you that email. Like their entire day was spent figuring out Gmail, like and how it worked and how to. How to compose a message, how to send it, and how to reply to something.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not kidding you. This is a grown adult person. This is not my 4-year-old son.
Yeah, so that, and then another person who I don't know what he did. And then we had the pastor who liked to mop carpets. We paid him to come
Remember
in.
him?
Yeah, we paid him to come in and clean the office. So
Because that was clearly his skill.
that was clearly a skill. In fact, one time, one of our friends from the old church reminded us of this lately, that when he was cleaning the bathrooms, he would dip his mop into the toilet, pull out the toilet water, and wash the ground.
I cannot.
And we kept asking each other, why does the bathroom smell so bad? Well, he's mopping it with toilet water.
Oh my gosh.
That's why. But those things are important because you have to understand we paid those people.
Yeah, those 2 people who
Those
didn't know
3
email,
people. Yeah, and then the guy who
toilet
cleaned,
mopper,
the toilet mopper got paid.
and guy that we didn't know what he did. But that guy that you didn't know what he did necessarily.
We picked him up from his house every day.
You guys
Yeah.
carpooled with him every single day. He was a member of the church and kind of like was in and out of like different jobs and was like, in his late 20s, maybe mid 20s.
No, he's in his 30s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. The person who was learning email was in her mid to late 40s.
Yeah.
Maybe early 50s.
Yeah.
So.
So that's that. But yeah, they were being paid.
They were being paid.
Like
and
normal employees.
In fact, the person who was cleaning was very upset at me about a year or 2 into the business when we couldn't pay him. And he was like, wouldn't even talk to me. And then the head pastor would call me and be upset at me that we weren't paying him. And I'm like, well, okay, we're trying to pay bills here. And none of us who are actually working 20 hours a day and doing actual work
like
were getting
never
paid.
got a cent. Yeah.
We got our cell phones paid for, and that was it.
But at the same time, like I understand like carpet mopper like being upset because he doesn't have another job and he's like older and like is expecting was he like even getting Social Security? Maybe.
I don't know.
Like he was in that age group.
Yeah, I don't know.
So like he's obviously upset. Like he needs to like earn a living to pay for things. Like probably had no idea that that you guys were getting $0. But anyways, whatever. I'm mad at him anyway. He was the worst.
So this is us working at this place, and we had mentioned how the hours we worked, and I think for about a year before we got done, there was a small portion of the time when I would get home at 1 or 2 in the morning, and I would go to 24-hour fitness and work out for an hour.
Oh, that's right.
Because I was just like, I was so miserable in life that I needed something, and I knew Carly was asleep anyway, so I'd get home at 1 or 2, sometimes 3, go work out for an hour and a half, and then come home, sleep for 2 hours, and then go back to work.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I forgot that we actually I remember it being a very inexpensive,
It was like
very inexpensive monthly payment for a gym
$10
membership.
or
But
something. It was crazy.
that's crazy that we even were able to afford that. But I remember it being very inexpensive, and it was kind of like, okay, we need one outlet, or you felt like you needed one outlet, and I just continued to feel like it was good for me too, because me and my best friend, who was the wife of your best friend, the other armor bearer, we did classes together there and stuff like that. But yeah, we continued just to isolate her. We were so separate, living separate lives, and had zero connection.
Yeah, and that was, I'd mentioned at the very beginning, our first episode, how I'd drive home and just think the only way Carly could be happy is if she divorced me. And that was at this time period in life when I was working at this design company, because it was, I would see her once a week, and she was looking less and less like herself during those times. And the times when I go work out at 24 Fitness, I remember vividly sitting in my car at 2 a.m. thinking, okay, I'm going to go work out, and just crying in my car thinking my life is a complete mess, but I'm doing everything I can. Just thinking I'm following God. And in the midst of that, is our pastor who's still the CEO of the company, who has this gift of being able to talk to everybody, so knows everybody's junk, so can call you out on it. And we'd have multiple meetings as a business whether it be at 1 a.m. or 3 a.m. or 1 p.m, of us coming together and saying, we need to give more. We need to believe as much as he believes. He's the one getting paid. Obviously, we need to believe as much as he believes. We need to be able to make this happen together. And every conversation that we had that was a little bit demeaning towards the business or him, somehow we'd find out about it and call us out on it. So we're scared because we're like, this is our pastor. Somehow he has this supernatural sense, knowing behind our backs what we're thinking in our minds, which was really his just ability to talk to everybody and manipulate. And but for people who are really trying to follow God, it scares you.
Yeah, it's like the perfect example would be like when you're thinking like, gosh, this sounds really good to eat right now, and then you're scrolling through Instagram and there's like an ad for the exact thing you were thinking of, and you're like, how in the world does the internet know what I'm thinking? It's the weirdest thing. I can't even describe it, but everybody knows what I'm talking about. That was like the feeling of like, oh my gosh, like you're afraid to even think about, like even in your own thoughts, to think about the negative things, because you knew it was going to get back to him somehow, or God was going to tell him, because that's how he would always phrase it, was like, God showed me this.
I was praying, and
like I was praying, and like God revealed this to me. So I think that, like, even just thinking that now, that was even more of a reason why we were so afraid to talk through things together and talk about things together, because there was that fear of like, I can't even let myself think negatively about our situation and then talk to you about it, which would have been a healthy thing.
Yeah.
Because he could have called us in the next 30 minutes and said, hey, I was praying and God showed me that like you guys are in disagreement with me, and all of that. So I think that it was, again, just like so much fear that just we were in so much bondage and so many different levels, so much bondage.
And there's a lot of I don't want to change the subject, but I was thinking when you talked about the bondage and everything else, in this office space we had, there was this incredible office in the front of the building that was his office that he never once sat in.
He never came to the office.
Never once came to the office.
He did
but that
everything
was
from
his
home.
office. And there was like a brand new couch and desk and everything else, and we weren't allowed to be in there because it was his office. And then, when people came and visit, we had to close the door and pretend like he was in there.
Yeah, it was like
I guess that
so
goes.
much,
I'm
like,
trying to say that goes along with what Carly was saying.
Yeah.
It's like this. Just no, that's his place. We can't desecrate it by being in it ourselves.
Yeah.
Like, what if we sat in there? Maybe we wouldn't put drop shadow on wording.
Well, I remember when you guys got that place, like the shopping spree that we all went on. We talked about that a little bit, but like he had some very expensive pieces in his office, and I remember a point being there because a lot of like my money, I mean, it was ours obviously, but like I had a full-time job. It was the only way we were surviving, barely. A lot of that money was spent on getting stuff. Like, I remember spending a ton of money at IKEA. And granted, IKEA is not the most expensive place, but like at the time, that was a lot of money for us. Yeah. Bookshelves and furniture pieces and stuff all over the office. And I remember thinking like, this is all in his office and like, he's not even using it. And I was really so annoyed about it. Like, what do you mean he's not even here? Like, you're required to be here, but he's not even here? Yeah. Like, I wanted you to, like, stand up for yourself. Like, like, are you kidding me? Like, this is not okay, But there was always some reason or excuse that, like, I was not, I was to not think that. And
yeah. And this was a major... These 2 years in this business with that office building was a major point where that Jezebel thing continued to come up, where... I remember specifically multiple times. I can remember in my mind places I was at in the office when I was called and said, "You need to check your wife. She is out of control," or whatever it is.
Did we talk about what a Jezebel spirit is?
Yeah, we did a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, Jezebel and Ahab.
Maybe just recap.
Yeah, you can look it up if you need to.
Well, recap on what Jezebel.
Jezebel is basically like this conniving spirit that is opposed to God, and it has a way of manipulating men. Mm-hmm. Because Jezebel manipulated Ahab in the Bible. So yeah, the Jezebel spirit's like this manipulative spirit of a woman towards a man.
But Ahab was also the soft weenie. That
Exactly.
Was never
So
talked
so
about.
then the man is an Ahab spirit. Like
Yeah.
you can't stand up to the woman.
To the wife, yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
You just go along with what she wants as opposed to what God wants to do.
So yeah, anybody who had any sort of any female who had an opinion of her own, and I'm not talking like opinions what they are today and like this feminine movement that we're in now. Like this is not even close to what that was or what that is now. Back then, like this was anybody who had any sort of opinion or like her own thoughts, really, or anybody who had something to say that was maybe a little bit different than either her husband or the pastor like had thought. And I'm not talking in some like sort of disrespectful form or really anything, but just anybody who had her own voice was definitely labeled as a Jezebel or had a Jezebel spirit. There was like no room for that at all, and that was what it meant to be a submissive wife, was to not have your own thoughts or opinions or really anything that was your own, which we've talked about from the very beginning, which was just very different than myself. And I think you're probably gathering from listening to this podcast that maybe I am a Jezebel. No, it just was very...
Maybe Jezebel's not bad.
It was just very opposite of who I am. And not that I'm like a person who seeks out like controversy
Right.
or
Conflict or anything,
conflict or wants to stir something up. I like to have conversation about like, why are you choosing this, or why do you believe this, or whatever. And I'm very true to what I believe. But yeah, so Jezebel spirit was used as kind of a term to like, hey, you better check your wife.
Yeah.
And that was told to you several times. But do you remember what exactly it was that I was doing that you were being told to?
I don't think it was anything you were doing. It was like a attitude that he felt like he felt from you. So it wasn't.
What do you think that attitude was, though?
Of just probably anger
Yeah.
and disdain towards him, which I would feel that too if I was in your position, you know? So it was completely legitimate feelings. It's just, he could feel that and pick up on that. Whatever his deal was with who he was, he still, I think, could see anything that was against him in a way, and be able to pick up on that. So,
Do you remember having conversations with me at all about that? Like after he would call you and tell you those sorts of things, you remember like having to have those
I
conversations?
think I would have conversations and just try to do it in a gentler way, because I didn't feel like it was necessarily your bad on some of the things. Like, hey, cars are any way you could just try to smile more at him when he comes towards you. Please, God, for everyone here, just try not to like glare at him from the pulpit. Just please.
Which I didn't do those things. It wasn't until the very end that I was a little bit more outspoken about how I like was really feeling or in response to things he would say to me. But yeah, that was just another way for him to like divide people.
Yeah.
It really was like a way of it was a way to divide people and to have people on his side. And the women were the easiest targets basically to just come against in that sense, but he didn't know who he was dealing with.
Which was so crazy, because you get upset about things like that, but one of the big accounts that we had at the design company was a spray tan place, and we had to film a commercial for them and do a website for them. It was,
Oh my gosh, don't even get me started.
it was
on
like,
this.
it was legitimately, the people who were filming it were, I mean, the women were changing in front of them. They were completely naked, and the website we're doing was very provocative, and I remember feeling weird about it. Like, if we're really doing this for God, how can we do this? And then it came down to, well, are you too religious? Like, you can't handle this? And
My gosh, I remember seeing pictures that you guys took of like this model that was going to be for their website, right?
Yeah.
It was going to be for their website, and you guys were hired to take the pictures for it and did the video shoot for it. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, like, are you kidding me? Like, I understand that, like, our pastor is no longer married, so maybe this is not a, like, thing for him, but this just feels really weird that, like, yeah, she was fully nude, even though she was covered or whatever, but, like, I remember, like, our buddy saying that, like, yeah, like, she would change, and it was just, like, it's just part of that atmosphere. It wasn't like she was trying to be sexual or whatever, but it was very provocative, very sexual, and just the fact that you guys took that business felt so strange to me and so weird and so, like, it was just so conflicting to everything that, like, we said that we were, you know, so here, like, I can't freaking wear a tank top to, like, corporate prayer, but then you're, like, filming naked women do this commercial, and because it's, like, part of the business and, like, oh, you can't handle it, like, are you too religious, like, that you can't deal with, like, this professionalism of, like, modeling, like, I just was like, what? Like, so confused.
Yeah.
So weird. Like, that's how everything was so manipulated into what he wanted it to be. You know, like, if he wanted to do something, he'd find a way to, like, say that anything opposing it was, like, wrong for some reason, even if it was exactly the opposite of what he said the day before for something else.
Yeah. So that was one of the businesses that was really, it was a conflict. I fortunately didn't have to video or photograph that, but the models came into our business and met with us, and they would come pretty skimpy clothing, which is part of the business. I get that. It's just with what we were trying to do and how we were doing a business, like, why would you take a business like that? Mm-hmm. So yeah, that was strange. And then there was this amazing thing that always kept us, even let's say we only went home for 5 hours during the day. There was this amazing thing called Go to Meeting that allowed you that even when you were home for your 5 hours, that was a big day off work, you could still be at work. I don't know if this is still a thing or if...
Well, it's like Google Hangouts, basically.
Yeah, but it's...
like a Google chat.
It was Go to Meeting, and you could see the person's screen during your meeting time. And so we would have times where I wasn't even a designer, and I'd have to sit there and watch him design to try to give him tips on it. And mind you, this is after he'd slept from, 4 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon and got us a good 11 hours in. And then all of a sudden at 1 o'clock he wants to work on something, and then I have to sit on my computer screen. I remember, like, sitting at 2 in the morning. I would get home and I'd sat on my couch watching his computer screen, and then he'd fall asleep sometimes. But then if he fell asleep and then woke up and you weren't awake, then it would be a major issue.
I'm laughing because I'm so angry listening to this. Seriously, Go to Meeting, like, ruined my life. Oh my gosh. But yeah, like, you could, that was the same for, like, phone calls or whatever.
Yeah.
Anything that he was a part of that, like, there was obviously going to be some, like, stale space that went on, whether it was quiet, he was doing work and you were seeing, like,
or the guy that was living
mirroring
at his house was doing the work.
Yeah.
Which we won't even get to that until later, but...
Yeah. Another armor bearer who was basically there full time because his wife was gone. And now he was with him full time because obviously, like, as a pastor, he needs full time armor bearer service.
Why could you not survive on your own?
Heaven forbid he needs
You're a grown
orange
man.
juice at 8 a.m. and can't pour it himself or go to the grocery store
What if he
himself.
needs his computer turned on? I mean, what if he needs the dogs walked? What if he needs the bell peppers cut? What if he needs the food made piping hot? So I don't know.
Yeah, those are just things you can't do on your own as a pastor. You cannot be bothered with those things as a pastor. There's too many more important things to do, like Go to Meeting. Yeah. But yeah, I remember being like, wait, so you're actually home from work? That's awesome. but you're still having to be on your computer. Like, tell me why this. I remember just wanting to, like, I wanted to understand why it was so important. And you always convinced me that it was. Like, you never, said, like, I don't know, Carly, this is seriously just the worst. Like, this is so stupid that I have to do this. It's like, if you had done that, I feel like it would have been so much easier to, like, be okay with that, you know?
Yeah.
But because you felt like you had to defend it completely and convince me that it was important, even to this day, that feels like something that's hard for us to work through. Like, when I hear you say something, I'm like, is it though, really? Like, is it really though? Because I've been through lots of years of you telling me that something's important and it really isn't. But yeah, the go-to meeting was turn of a century.
Yeah.
What a great invention.
That was amazing. So that was a big thing that even when we left the office, we were doing that. And and again, the hours were crazy and we weren't bringing in any income. And every once in a while, we would get like $20 or $40 together. I don't know if it was from him. Sometimes he'd send some money to go get some food. And there was a convenience store across the street we used to go to. Famima, yeah. And they had like the best
sticky buns.
And they were cheap. And it was amazing.
That place is no longer around, is it?
I don't know if it is. It was amazing.
It was almost like an upscale 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
Like really upscale, like Asian, hip, swanky place.
Yeah, it had like red bean sticky buns.
Yeah, sticky buns, yeah.
So we go there, and then one time we got $40, and we walked across the street as an office, and there was, I think, 7 of us who were there. Walked across the street to get food.
Because you guys hadn't eaten, and you had no food at the office, and you were there for obviously 3 meals of the day.
Yeah. And we went to get food, and we were trying to ration our money, and
This is so sad.
and I was like, I saw Manwich, and I'm like, oh, Sloppy Joe's, Manwich, this is awesome. And it was like 99 cents, and it was a huge container of it. And I thought,
Huge can of it.
I can't believe this is only, guys, we could eat this for like 5 days. This is amazing. And we brought it back. And I'm ashamed to say, I thought the Manwich can had actual meat in it. It wasn't just the sauce for Sloppy Joe's.
Just the sauce. No
It was
meat.
just the sauce. We had no meat. So then we actually didn't have any food either. So we put Sloppy Joe sauce on everything for weeks.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, that was one of the times when we had come a windfall of $20 to $40.
I remember bringing, making food to bring to you guys occasionally when, I was able to, or like I got paid and was able to like make some food and bring it up. That was like a, huge treat. But remember one of the other guys, I don't know if he even had a gym membership, but the only way he like basically was able to like shower and stuff was
to the gym.
he went across, because he like basically lived
He
in the
lived
office.
there, yeah. He lived in the office in his seat. Like,
Yeah.
he had a place to live, but I complained
never
about
went
being
home.
there 20 hours, but he was literally there. He was like our lead designer. He was there 24 hours a
Yeah,
day.
because he was really the only one that had any sort of like computer art design experience to begin with.
Well, there
he
was 2 of them,
actually good.
him and another female who was awesome too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she went home. She was married, so I feel like that was kind of like,
Yeah, she could do some work from home.
that was a good thing for her in the sense that she was able to be released to go home at some point, whereas this other guy who was single was like, oh, he can stay as long as he needs to kind of treatment. But yeah, he was there 24 hours a day, and really the only way he was able, he would go to like the gym across the street and like actually shower.
Yeah.
That was the only way he like could, and he couldn't go home because what if like there was just always something to be done.
Yeah. And again, the hard part of the work was that morning session when the pastor was sleeping, where if anything came in, had to be done immediately. Mm-hmm. But then you couldn't get the feedback from, so you had to kind of like just guess, okay, is this okay?
Mm-hmm. And I think it's important, like, for people that don't know, like, art design or, like, writing code or whatever, like, it takes a long time. It's not just like I know you would always get annoyed when people be like, get their website back and be like, hey, could you just,
Could
like,
you move
scoot
that?
this
Could you just
part
move that
over
picture
just a
over?
little
Yeah,
bit?
I'll
Like,
recode the entire thing.
like, it's not as
Yes.
easy as just, like, space bar a couple times to,
Yeah.
like, scoot it over. It's so much more involved in that. So you get a lot of people that were like, hey, could you just, like, I'm just, like, wanting this a little different. Like, do you think you could do that, like, in the
Yeah.
next hour? And then you've got, like, a Nazi pastor who's slash CEO who's, like, doing the same sort of thing because he's not fully understanding, like, the writing of the code and all of that.
Yeah, so he'd be the one who'd be like, yeah, we could do that, and then
Yeah.
look at us, and we'd have to
Like,
put
yeah,
in the
just,
work
like,
to
finish,
actually do it.
Yeah, fix that part or whatever. Yeah. So,
But this is the point where we'll probably end this for today. Hopefully this wasn't too jumbled of all this information, but this is the point where things are really hitting ahead, where it's like, holy cow. We're working 20 hours a day. I never see my wife, but we still don't have anything to show for it. We're starving. We have no food. We're maxing out the credit cards we somehow paid off because of a game show. And we can't pay for gas. We have no friends except the ones in the church. We're dying. Our marriage is failing. And that's what brings us to basically 2 years into the business when things, I feel like over the course of a 6-month period, really took a dramatic change in our lives.
well, let's not forget what any sort of money that did come in, where did that money go towards? His cable bill.
Yeah, well, that was going to be in the next bit,
sorry.
but since Carly,
I'm so sorry.
said that, we'll say there was a point in our business where we were legitimately bringing in some money. Again, we weren't getting paid. No one was getting paid.
And
But
we were still barely making
we
rent.
were paying our rent, paying our cell phones. But at that time, like paying our rent and our cell phones, I was like, thank God.
Yeah.
Like, I'm on the hook
and
for
even
this
like
stuff.
late, like for that.
Yeah.
Too. And not to mention like our personal rent at home, like we were late every single month. Like I had to call our landlord, and thank God that they were like understanding enough to be like, it's okay, whatever. But we were late several days every single month, which was just humiliating because I had to deal with that.
Yeah. So there was a point in our business, like right before when all the payments were going to go out, and this was after about a year and a half in the business, when all of a sudden I looked at the bank account and there was $2,000 less dollars, and it meant that I wasn't going to be able to pay some of the bills that we owed.
And
I was
you were
like,
in charge of paying all of those.
yeah, and I was like,
that
where
really
did
a lot
that
of stress.
money come from? How did we lose $2,000? And it ended up being our pastor's cable bill, and it was $1,700. $1,700. Someone please try to get a cable bill that's $1,700. Someone please try. Just try. Let me know. I won't pay it, but if you could do it, just show it to me. I'll pay half of it just to see that it's possible.
No, we won't.
Just to see that it's possible.
But what he would do is he would like pay for pay-per-view movies, right? And like watch 5 minutes. And
he'd
be
watch like 5 minutes.
Nah,
And
I'm
be like,
over
I
it.
don't like
Let's
it.
watch something else.
Yeah.
And this is what he would do like all through the night when all of his like employees are working.
Yeah, maybe 10 movies a night or something like that, and then he couldn't pay at one time because church was late on his bills, and he used the company credit card to pay for it. Well, the company business, the bank account to pay for it, and that was part of the downward spiral for me. I was like,
Yeah.
I can't stand behind this.
Yeah.
Like, I'm doing everything I can. I'm not getting a penny, and you just spent almost $2,000 on your cable bill, and I can't pay the cell phones.
Yeah.
I can't pay the phones in this place. I can't pay rent.
Yeah. Let alone like you guys not eating or anything else, like or any sort of personal expenses. Yeah. Just terrible.
So that's where the downward spiral started, and we'll pick that up next week as we talk about this was culminating here into some realizations.
Yeah. For the first time, some realizations. Thanks for tuning in. Welcome to Final Four for the week, and this week's topic is fears.
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 I've got two humongous ones, so I'll start with one of them.
Okay.
One of them is sharks. I don't know what it is. Maybe it was growing up not being around the ocean, but sharks scare the crap out of me. In fact, any water where I can't see the bottom, I start to internally panic just a little bit. Even if it's like a swimming pool, thinking, what if there's something underneath me and it's going to swim up and get me? So sharks, also water where you can't see the bottom. Two really big fears. Although I conquer those fears. I love swimming in the ocean. I love, catching a wave. I love, body surfing. Boogie boarding, which apparently, if you're from California, is not cool to boogie board all the way to the sand. When I thought the first time I boogie board, it was like a huge accomplishment. I took it right all the way onto the sand.
In his mesh shorts. I pretended I didn't know you. I remember that moment of you riding that boogie board all the way until you stopped on the sand. You rode it all the way to shore.
Yeah, and I probably got up and like flexed or something. I thought it was so cool.
Yep. Yeah. I just pretended I didn't know you for a second.
So that's my first one.
Yeah, that's a true legitimate fear of yours. Like the chances of you being attacked by a shark are so slim, but it is like it's such a true fear of yours.
Doesn't stop me from enjoying the ocean, but it is a fear. Or all of a sudden you're just like, I don't know what's underneath me. So I like going where I can touch the bottom still.
Yeah.
And at least if a shark grazes my leg, I can walk.
It's hilarious. Okay, so my first fear is tight spaces. I'm a little claustrophobic. I'm not like extremely claustrophobic where like I have a panic attack or like freak out, but I really do have to like talk myself down if I'm in a situation where it's like really tight or I'm feeling like suffocated in some sort of way. Kind of get that way like on elevators if there's too many people in an elevator or even like on a roller coaster. If I like my seat to be super tight.
But you love it super tight.
I like it super tight.
You're like, hey, can you make it any tighter?
Well, because that makes it feel more secure, but it kind of depends on the ride too. Like if I'm in a place where, like, so we went on a ride recently at Knott's where I couldn't like stretch my legs were like cramped and the bar was down so far and like my hips started to cramp and I like immediately started to panic because I couldn't move and I had to really talk myself down from like, okay, you're gonna be okay, like this is okay, like just breathe. So tight spaces, I do not like them. I like my personal space, and I don't like people being too close to me.
That's for sure true. Not like between us, so don't think it's just like a jab at her. But trust me, in public, it's like just give her a little space.
Yeah.
I think most people would like that, but Carly does. Yeah, that's.
Well, it's like you don't need to be breathing down my back. Like if we're in line somewhere, like I get that I get it. You're behind me, like you're gonna get your turn. Like but I'm first. So just stop. That's more maybe annoying.
Yeah.
We'll add that to the pet peeve list.
Yes, exactly. My second one, I'm not going to go to my other big fear because my second one would also be tight spaces. I do panic a little bit at I've twice have been in amusement parks when I've had them stop the ride and let me get off because the strapping was too tight and I couldn't breathe. And last time we went, there was also one where we were about to start and I got the panic look in my eyes.
He did.
Carly's like, just tell him to loosen it up. I'm like, excuse me, Could you loosen this up? And it was on my chest, and I couldn't take a full deep breath, and I was trying to like say, okay, I'm going to conquer this, but I didn't. I had him loosen it up for me, and then halfway through the ride, it clamped down on me again. We're coming to the end. I'm like, first of all, felt like I was going to throw up because it was spinning us around in circles, and
Yeah, you don't do well with those kinds of rides.
And then I was like panicking because I couldn't breathe. I was like, just please, God, help this ride end. Please help this ride end. And I was way more claustrophobic when I was a kid, like very horribly claustrophobic.
Really?
Oh yeah, I couldn't handle it. I hated tight spaces. I hated like too many pillows on me. I just not being able to like move my legs in a situation. That's why I hate tight sheets.
Yeah,
hate
that's
tight
why you
sheets.
kick
I
the
cannot
sheets.
stand.
The hospital corners get all ruined.
I can't handle it. I can't stand it because I just don't like that feeling of just not being able to move my legs. So,
Yeah.
Anyway.
That makes sense. I get the thing about the tight sheets thing. There's just so much effort that goes into those hospital corners that I just deal with it. Second one for me would be germs, and I know we've talked about this a little bit as far as like my bar soap obsession. But let me clarify the bar soap thing. Like, this is antibacterial barred soap, and I only use Dial. I don't trust the other brands.
I think you clarified that last time.
No, because I had some people say, like, oh, I like bar soap too, and this is what I use. And is a different bar soap and that I wouldn't choose to use because I don't think it does what I want it to do. So, no dig on that person. But anyway, so germs, and I don't remember being like this as a kid. My sister Taylor definitely had a thing about germs, like ever since we were little. Like, she would wash her hands so often that like her knuckles would be like chapped and bloody. But I feel like it's mostly just in the past several years.
I would agree, yeah.
I mean, before
that fear's come on strong.
Before kids, it started, but definitely since having kids, germs, I'm like a freak about it.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I can't even, like, Ben and Truman just got back from Denver for a few days, and I can't even think about if you wiped down the plane in the tray with a Clorox wipe before Truman sat there. I know you did it, and I don't want to. I don't
put the seatbelt in his mouth.
I don't want to hear it. Are you kidding me?
No, yeah, I'm kidding you.
Okay.
I wouldn't put a seatbelt in his mouth.
I'm like sweating. Like, that kind of stuff. Like, I get super just like anxious about it, and like my kid's getting sick, and it's like this panic of like germs are just, and my mom was always that way too, like very aware of like germs and where they come from, and she was in nursing school before she had me, so I feel like she has all this knowledge of like medical stuff.
I can only imagine. That is this strain of germ.
Well, like, I feel like because of her, I know like the incubation period of like all of these sicknesses and diseases.
Oh boy.
Camden's just so smart. But yeah, germs, I'm just constantly aware of, shopping carts and door handles. And okay, excuse me, this is why I hate the fact that bathrooms don't have paper towels.
Yeah.
Because they just have the air dryers, and then you have to touch the nasty door.
Yeah.
So anyways.
Which I said I just would use my shirt, and then Carly said, well, what if you rub your shirt against something else?
Right, that's just not good enough. Like, it's just terrible. So,
so you can just wait by the door until someone comes in or leaves, and then just sneak out.
No, I use a toilet seat cover.
Oh, okay.
Like, grab a toilet seat cover, usually to dry my hands off. And then I use that to open the door.
I'm glad I never knew that until this point. That's just
that
horrible,
weird.
though. Yeah, it is. I mean, that like the toilet seat cover like sticks. It's like
It
the
does
stuff
a little
sticks
bit,
to
but you
your
have to like
hands.
rub your hands, and it kind of like all balls up and then comes off. I'm sorry, it's better than the stomach flu.
I guess that's true. And it's better than having to use the toilet seat cover as toilet paper. If a place ever runs out of toilet paper.
Are you speaking from personal experience?
I don't know. Someone told me once.
Oh my gosh. But I always have like a tub of Clorox wipes in the car. One in the back of the car that I take in the stroller with me if we're going places. Several things of hand sanitizer and, spray sanitizers, all of that stuff. So I'm fully stocked. And I think just what I'm trying to say is I'm going to be the cleanest person you've ever met with my bar soap obsession and my fear of germs. So, yeah, germs is definitely very high up on the list.
Yes, it is. My second major fear, and you probably can't relate to this, is aliens.
Wait, say it again so people hear.
Aliens. I don't know what it is. I think it was...
Signs?
No,
it was before
for sure.
Signs.
No, it was when I was a kid. It was when they used to have Unsolved Mysteries on all the time. If you remember that TV show, Unsolved Mysteries. And whenever the things about like aliens came up, it freaked me out.
Right, because it's all inconclusive.
Well, and something could literally just come down from the sky and like laser beam you up.
Ben, it's never happened.
But
it's
as a
never
kid,
happened to anybody.
Right, it has never happened to me. But
or anybody.
people are like, do you really believe in Jesus? How can you believe in aliens? Whatever, okay? All I'm saying is, as a kid that just freaked, like every once in a while I'd have to like go out to the backyard and get something and I would run because I just had this fear that all of a sudden like a wall would come up between me and the house in the middle of the night and all of a sudden I'd be just taken up by aliens. So it's not nearly as much of a fear now, but definitely like growing up, it was a major fear, and I blame Unsolved Mysteries on that.
Well, and I remember watching Signs with you, with Mel Gibson, and that was very hard for you to watch because it was, first of all, a very scary movie. Anyway, such a good movie, but like you like literally like were cringing on the couch when like the aliens would walk by that like window scene.
That was freaky. That was probably the most scary alien I've seen in a show before, in a movie.
Yeah,
like, the
that
rest
was like
of it
the
are
most
like
realistic one.
Crazy and whatever.
Like The Arrival was like
like
that
come
movie.
on,
The
right?
Arrival was
that could have been way. That was not. If you wouldn't have showed him, it would have been better.
Yeah.
But yeah, that like slouched over like long arm, long leg alien in Signs. That's freaky, man.
Like you guys, this is a legitimate fear because okay, remember last year when there was that what was that like?
Oh, it was a satellite or something that was launched out of somewhere close to us, and I was on a run. You were
on a run with Truman.
With Truman, and
it was almost like dusk.
Yeah, the sun was just going down, and I saw it, and I sprinted home as fast as I could because I thought one of two things is happening: there's an alien invasion, or like someone
it left this incredible like marking in the sky.
Yeah, it was crazy.
And it was like this huge boom and like electric.
Yeah, and there wasn't like any...
Like everybody was posting
right,
about
there was
it.
no like news about it beforehand, or maybe there wasn't... No, so it was like either we're being invaded by aliens, so I was like... I ran home as fast as I could, and I got my gun, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to be prepared for this. I'm not going to go down without a fight. Or like we were being invaded by another country with these crazy new... weaponry, and I don't know.
But you texted me. Didn't you text me?
No, I sprinted.
Because I was at home.
I was like a mile away, and I ran the fastest mile of my life pushing a stroller.
You legitimately got your gun out until we like watched the news, and we were like, oh. And you sighed the biggest sigh of relief I've ever seen. That was so funny. Oh my gosh. I remember laughing so hard because you came home and your face was white. You were so scared.
It's like, you know what's going on here. Get yourself ready. I don't know where we have to drive. Let's go to your parents' house.
Yeah,
we'll consolidate all our guns.
That's what you said.
I was thinking, let's go consolidate all our guns into one place.
Yeah, you're like, hey, we're going to go down to Carly's parents. There's more guns there with all of us. That's what I think you had texted me.
Yeah,
you had already made up in your mind.
Yeah, I'd figured it out. There was
like
a plan of
attack for sure.
Yeah. You got to have those plans of attack. You got to be ready.
Yeah.
You
You
know?
were ready. That was great. So my third one is a little bit more serious. Sorry to break the mood. I have a fear of like not living up to my potential. And I mean that in a way of like wanting to have worked harder in a certain area or be better in a certain area, but like my laziness or my busyness or whatever like keeps me from really being the best that I could have been in an area. And I don't know, I guess some of those areas in your life you'll just never know if you weren't hitting your potential, I guess. But I feel like that's something I'm trying to focus on this year for myself is like pushing myself to, I guess, just higher limits in certain parts of my life that I know that I can, or that I've been fearful in the past to push myself. But yeah, not living up to my potential is like a huge fear, and feeling like I've wasted time, you know, and yeah. So sorry, it's a little downer, but
But you're going to do it.
I'm gonna do it, folks. What am I gonna do?
Not
Be as fearful.
yeah. About things.
Yeah. So my biggest fear is being afraid of everything. No, I get afraid. Like, for instance, like pushing myself to like really work out hard. You know, I'll think like, oh, I need to like save some energy for the last part of my workout, or don't want to get hurt, or just things like that like really keep me from like really pushing myself hard. Like what's I'm gonna die? Like what's the worst that's gonna happen? Like I'm gonna die? Maybe.
Yeah, probably not though.
Probably not though. So yeah, not living up to my potential and wanting to. Yeah, like I'm just afraid of like being on my deathbed and wishing I would have like done more, or like worked harder for something, or yeah.
That's bad. That's a hard fear.
Yeah. No. And probably a really common one.
Yeah, probably.
Not yours though.
No, I've never worried about that. No, I've worried about that before, for sure. Like, you always worry that you pass away and it's like, you get to heaven, it's not like, well done, good and faithful service. It's like, well, you made it in. Left a lot on the table, bud.
Yeah, and I don't even like have that fear of like, I don't know, like meeting Jesus and not being proud of what I've done. I think it's more of like a selfish like aspect. I
could have looked better.
Right? Yeah. Wow, I like really could have lost those 10 pounds, and you know, not really, but you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah,
like
no, I get it.
Much more like
get it.
selfish things than maybe things that I actually should be focused on. It's a new year. I'm working on some things.
Yeah, there we go. You know, little by little.
Little by little.
My last one is a little more serious too, and it's just, and I guess it's a fear that I feel like comes from a little bit of stress and anxiety, but like just not being competent in a certain situation. Like I would hate going into a situation feeling like I don't have some kind of answer or something in it.
Being prepared for it?
Yeah, like, or feeling like you have a job and you're not competent to be able to do that job. Like, that's a major fear of mine that I feel like drives me sometimes in a bad way, because I feel like everything that I've been able to walk into, God's made me competent, and I've been able to do the work to become competent. And sometimes the good things about fears is it drives you to become certain things.
Yeah.
So it's driven me to work really hard so that I never walk into a situation and feel like I can't get it done.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say that's one of my fears.
Yeah.
Of like not feeling competent in a situation.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's my final one.
My final one is birds. Not so much maybe like a fear, but like a disdain. I do not like birds. I don't like them near me. I don't like their feathers flapping by my ears. I just do not like them. They're dirty, they're gross, and of course I have children who love birds. I mean, literally our boys love every like type of living thing.
But yeah, birds.
But,
I take them when I take them to the lake to feed birds. I have to
ducks.
go by myself
Oh,
because I know that Carly would lose her mind because they like Truman will feed a duck to the point where he can touch the duck's head.
Yeah, like they peck they bite his fingers and he doesn't care. But I do it. Like I go with you guys and I do it. And so like I do things that I don't enjoy because that's part of being a mom. So it's not like I'm sitting at home because I like hate these sorts of things or I don't like. So my fears don't necessarily keep me from doing things like the germs. Like I still will go and do things, but the birds, they're gross and they freak me out. There was something that had happened. A couple of things that actually happened when I was younger. And it's a little hard to talk about. I'm just kidding. So growing up, my grandparents had chickens and I was locked into the chicken coop one time. And I think I was like 3, maybe. I was very young. I don't know why I'm looking to you to like confirm
yeah, definitely
that.
3. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Do you remember?
Yes. I was 6 at the time.
And I think I remember being barefoot or being told I was barefoot and they just like pecked my feet and I freaked out. Like they attacked me. I was locked in a chicken coop at 3 years old and they like pecked me all over. I don't know if it was all over, but anyway, really don't like chickens. Truman loves chickens. My parents have chickens. I mean, I think we can all agree. Anyone who follows me on Instagram like has seen these poor chickens. But when I was a little bit older, I was probably like, I don't know, maybe 9, 10, 15. Perhaps. I was not that old. You weren't even there, so don't even try to tell this story because you don't know anything. I was around that age, and we used to do, like, lemonade stands, you know, back in the day when, like, kids actually did good things before they had phones and so much TV. But we used to sell pomegranates because my parents have a pomegranate tree, and we would always sell pomegranates because they're, like, super expensive, and people love them, and so we live like kind of in a cul-de-sac, and so I would ride my bike up to the end of the street, which was probably like, how far is that? Maybe like
2 blocks.
I was thinking like in terms of meters, maybe like
I don't know, 800.
800 meters, yeah. Okay. Ride my bike up to the end of the street, put a sign up, and the house at the end of the street had turkeys, okay? Like full-size turkeys, and several of them. And they would let them go on the grass in the front yard. And they would just stay on the grass, like they didn't necessarily like ever wander off or anything. And, you know, we would see them as we'd drive by out of our neighborhood. Well, the turkeys happened to be out that day, unfortunately. And so I parked my bike, not super close to the post, which I don't know why I didn't just like ride my bike all the way to like the street post.
That's a great question.
But all that to say is somehow when I turned around from hanging up the sign, there was a turkey that was standing on the street in between me and my bike. And I had nowhere to go. So I left my bike there because I couldn't get on my bike like fast enough to like get away.
Yeah, because you're way faster runner than a bike rider.
No, it wasn't even that. It was like getting to the bike was going to be too tricky with turkeys because then they were all starting to walk towards me. And so I just like booked it home. I think it was like maybe reversed. The bike was like in front of me, and I had to go get my bike to like make it home. But anyways, I decided to like run home, and the turkeys ran after me and started flapping their wings. I wasn't sure. I don't know if turkeys can fly, but they were almost flying that day. And I have never run so fast in my entire life, that 800 meters or whatever. I ran all the way home, and Mom was like, what happened? Like, my face was totally white. I was totally out of breath. and everybody laughs about it to this day and makes fun of me, like that I was chased by the turkeys. And people try and say that like it didn't really happen, or that they were like chickens or whatever. And you know what? No one was there to witness it except for me and the turkeys. It was terrifying. It was very, very terrifying. Needless to say, I didn't make any money that day. And it was my last stand for sure, of my youth.
I mean, it killed your business.
It killed my business for sure, because I was too afraid to go to the end and put a sign up anymore.
You should have just started another business.
I should have just had my siblings do it. But yeah, so therefore, I don't like turkeys. I even don't like when we go to the zoo and like the peacocks are around wild. I don't like them coming near me. They're so unpredictable. I think that's what I don't like about them. They're super unpredictable. And since I have been nearly almost attacked 2 times, I just don't like them. I don't like them at all. And I will not go into a bird sanctuary, even though I do go to the one at the zoo, because, again, I'm a good mom.
Yeah.
But I don't like them. And you may not, like, know that that's a fear by, like, things I do, because I will still try to involve myself. I still go to the beach, obviously, where there's seagulls. But I'm not going to feed the seagulls, because that's stupid.
Yeah, I mean, whoever feeds them, you need to just stop coming to the beach, because you ruin it for everyone.
AKA Truman. Anyway, that wraps up our fears. Hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us on Bizography. Please subscribe or leave a comment. And if you have questions or want to open up a discussion, you can find us on Instagram or Facebook at Bizography. See you next time.